I am Slick Nick, and it's about time for you to learn some trivia about me that you may not have been aware of. It may not have been obvious to you. It may not have presented itself to you. So let's go ahead and unpack what you see in the title. Yeah, I'm over half Hispanic, and I'm over a third German. So let's understand how that came to be. I've always known this about myself, but then take a DNA test on my heritage, and it very clearly confirms it all. So the way it works out, my mother is technically Hispanic. Like I was about to say half, but no, I mean, here's how it works. Her mother was a first generation Mexican American, and her father was a first generation Italian American. However, the DNA test shows that my mom is 4.5% Italian. The majority of what she is Sephardic Jewish. So like Jewish people who came from Spain, basically is how it was. So they were Spanish Jews. So that's basically about a quarter of me, I guess you could say. And then the other part would have been Mexican, but Mexican is not a race. When we think of Mexican, it's really a hybrid of people who were Spanish and Native American for that group of that were living in Mexico. So like here in the United States, we think Choctaw, Cherokee, etc., right? But for that part, the Andes, that was basically the people group there. So knowing that, here's how it breaks down. So I am 31.8% Iberian, which is the word for Spain and Portuguese. So 31.8%, nearly a clear third, is Spanish. But then on top of that, we've got 21.6%, which is Mesoamerican and Andean, which that added together is a total of 53.4%. But wait, how did you get more than half? How did you get more than 50%? Because my dad, he's like 3% Spanish, and it carries over and showed up on my DNA. He took one as well, and it showed the 3%, and perfect math, it carried over to me. So yeah, I'm 53.4% Hispanic, and of that, 31.8% is Spanish, Iberian as it's called, and then 21.6%, over a fifth, is that Native American. So that's half of me. And then on my dad's side, he's mostly German, so it's 37.4% for that German category, which my last name, Shell, it comes from a German word, which is pronounced, it is Shell, but it's spelled, I guess, originally with a C in there. And it's the German word for loud, noisy, ringing sound. So yeah, that's the ethnic breakdown. And it's interesting because when you see this, you see that there's a difference between simply just your nation of origin versus your ethnic background. So the fact that my whole life, my mom saw herself as being half Italian. She takes a DNA test and finds out she's 4.5% Italian, even though her grandparents moved from Italy like 100 years ago. Well, that's because just because you come from a country doesn't mean you share the DNA of the majority of people from that. Because when it comes down to it, DNA is pretty arbitrary. Like, so for example, even though I'm saying, that I'm over a third German, well, it turns out the DNA itself for most people in Germany and France is pretty much the same group of people. So it's a matter of where did your ancestors come from? Okay, you're German. Okay, you're French. It's pretty much the same DNA. So it doesn't make a difference. So even the Iberian thing, because people from Portugal who are Portuguese and people who are from Spain, it's the same DNA. So you look at the arbitrary borders there to determine that, but as far as your DNA doesn't necessarily respect borders. It's looking at the actual genetics of people. So there you go. You learned something new about me. I am Hispanic. I am actually over half Hispanic, and I'm over a third German. That's the majority of what I am. So if you thought that was an interesting video, as I've kind of talked about something completely different, consider that you're watching my older, more popular YouTube channel right now, but I have another one and it's called The Famous American, if you want to look that up, where that's mainly what I talk about. I talk about DNA test results, ethnic background, nationality concepts, things like that. Cultural ideas is what the other channel is about. It's not as popular, but it's been around only, I think, a year less than this channel, which this channel has been around for several years now. So if you want to check it out, if you can find it, good luck. It's called The Famous American. If that sounds fascinating to you, I think it is. I think it's pretty interesting to consider, because until I said it now, I mean, a lot of you would have never seen me as Hispanic. A lot of people that I'm compared to in the comment section are actually Jewish, like Paul Rudd, for example. Well, in theory, arguably, maybe I'm like a quarter Jewish, technically. I mean, based on how you want to look at that. And in general, when people compare me to people, it tends to be Jewish actors. I've noticed a pattern of that. It used to be Ben Affleck, but then I slimmed down and people don't think I look like Ben Affleck anymore. So there you go. Very interesting stuff. I would love for you to leave comments about this, and let's explore this even more. I mean, I'd be happy to talk more about it on this channel and not just my other one. Let's see what you got to say. Your comments belong right here.